Hi guys, we're going to talk about section 3.1 today, which is lines and angles. Your objective is that you'll be able to identify relationships between figures in space and to identify angles formed by lines in a transversal. So we are starting our unit on parallel and perpendicular lines, and our focus today is to talk about relationships with lines and angles. So starting off with our vocab, we first have a word you should all be familiar with: parallel lines. Parallel lines are coplanar lines that do not intersect. Coplanar means that they are on the same plane, and of course you guys know that they never intersect, like this example here. Now a symbol for parallel is two vertical lines next to each other. When you see the symbol being used, they are asking you to describe parallel objects. Now, our next vocab word is skew lines, which talks about lines that never intersect but are not parallel. Skew lines are non-coplanar lines that are not parallel and do not intersect. So non-coplanar means that they are not on the same plane, which means you're going to have like a 3D image, kind of like this picture here. Skew lines are not parallel, which means that they are going in opposite directions, yet they never intersect. So I've highlighted this front shape, this front line here on the front of the box, and then this back line here. As you can tell, they're not parallel because they're not going in the same direction. One's going up and down, and one's going left to right. But they're also not going to intersect because one's on this plane and one's on this plane, and they will never touch. Please remember the difference between parallel and skew lines. You will be tested on this. Next we have parallel planes. Parallel planes are planes that do not intersect. Okay? They are two flat surfaces that exist next to each other but never on top of each other. So you can kind of see that here with these two flat surfaces. However, you mostly see it when you look at a 3D object like a cube. Okay, on this cube, the front side is parallel to the back side. The left is parallel to the right, so on and so forth. Those sides will never cross each other, which means that they're parallel planes. Lastly, we have transversal. A transversal is a line, usually named line T, that intersects two coplanar lines at distinct points. Now, distinct means different. So a transversal is this line here that I've highlighted that intersects two coplanar lines at two different points. Now, when this happens, you create these angles around this intersection and angles down here. And we're going to be learning about throughout this chapter that there's a relationship between these angles down here and these angles up here. Below your first four vocab words is this image of two more lines cut by a transversal. You're going to use this image for the angle types below. Now, below we have these 5 angle types. These are going to be your special angle pairs. And I want you to write this down. That's special angle pairs are non-adjacent. That's very important to remember. We already know some relationships on this picture here. We know that 1 and 6 are vertical angles. We know that 1 and 3 are supplementary. So we know the relationships of angles that are next to each other, that are adjacent. This is a different lesson that's going to talk about what's the relationship between 1 and 4. 1 and 7, 6 and 7, things that are from the two separate lines. Okay, our first type of angle, our first two types of angles is alternate interior and same side interior angles. Alternate interior angles are angles on opposite sides of the transversal and in between the two lines. Okay, so alternate means opposite, interior means inside. So if we look at this picture, we want to look for two angles that are in between lines L and M and on opposite sides of the transversal T. That would be angles 1 and 2 or angle 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all of the angles that are inside the two lines. So we pick one from the left and one from the right. And remember, they cannot be adjacent. So 1 and 3, although they are alternate and they are interior, they're not alternate interior angles because they're adjacent. We then have same side interior angles, which are angles on the same side of the transversal and in between the two lines, such as 1 and 4 or 3 and 2, which we've written here. All right, next type of angle is called corresponding. Corresponding angles are angles on the same side of the transversal with one interior and one exterior. So this one could be a little tricky. It's the only special angle that does not tell us where to look based off of its name alone. Okay? Corresponding angles are always on the same side of each other, but one is interior and one is exterior. So if I look at the left side of line T, okay, and I pick one inside, one outside, that's not adjacent, it'd be angles like 5 and 4 or 1 and 7. If I look at the right side, you can do 6 and 2 or 3 and 8. Those are corresponding. Our last two types of angle pairs are similar to the first two. They're alternate exterior and same side exterior. Just like alternate interior and same side interior, those are very similar in terms of where you would look for, whether it's alternate sides or same sides. The difference here is that exterior angles are found on the outside of those two lines L and M. Alternate exterior are angles on opposite sides of the transversal and outside the two lines. And same side exterior are angles on the same side of the transversal and outside the two lines, such as 5 and 8 and 6 and 7, or 5 and 7, or 6 and 8. Okay, as soon as you have this written down, you can go ahead and pause at this time if you need to. Go ahead and move to the back side, and we'll do some examples. Okay, now when I printed this off for you guys, some of the things did not print out correctly, so if you can go ahead and write in the following things. We need to have our U written here, and SW written here. So on problem 1, they're really having us focus on that difference between parallel and skew. So the first question they ask us is which segments are parallel to RU? Now RU is this line here. So parallel would mean coplanar lines that never intersect. That would be lines like ST, WX, and VY. Make sure when you name these lines, you use 2 letters in the correct segment symbol. Now the reason why these are parallel to RU is because they all follow the same direction, diagonally in this way. So that tells me they're parallel. Now when we talk about the skew lines, skew to SW, SW is this line here. We want to look for lines that are not parallel and not intersecting. So that means that XT is out, YU, and RV. Those are all parallel to WS and therefore are not skew. Also, things that are not skew would be ST, RS, VW, and WX. because all four of these lines touch WS. They all four meet to make that line. So if you look at what's left, we have RU, VY, YX, and UT. All four of those lines are considered skew. So go ahead and write all of those down. Okay, again, they are not skew because they do not intersect line WS, and they are not parallel to WS. Next we have parallel planes. They want you to name 2 pairs of parallel planes. Now there's 3 pairs total. Remember, parallel planes are planes that do not cross. One example would be if I look at the top of this box shape, YVWX. Okay, it is parallel to the bottom of the shape. So that is RUST. So this is one pair of parallel planes. They're planes that will never intersect. Another one would be if I looked at the left and right side, such as RUYV and the right side, WSXT. Now you only have to write 2 pairs of planes down, but if you wanted the third, it would be plane RVWS and YUXT, the front and the back. Keep in mind as you're naming these planes, that planes use the word plane and have 3 or more letters. Usually I see you guys use 4 because it's easier to identify. But you can use 3 if you only want to use 3. So make sure you name those planes correctly. Last question on number 1. What are 2 segments parallel to plane, and this should say plane RUYV. So sorry, that did not get typed out. So we're going to look at RUYV, which is, let me grab a different highlighter. RUYV is that left side. So we're going to look for segments that are parallel to that side. Okay, to look at parallel objects, you'd want to go to its parallel plane, which is going to be this side right here. Okay, now if you're wanting to answer a problem like D, where you're trying to name segments parallel to this plane over here, you just want to name any segments that are on that plane, because any segments that are on this plane will be parallel to this plane. So possible answers could be WS, WX, XT, TS, or even diagonal lines like WT or XS. Now there's 6 different options there you could choose as your answer. You only need to choose 2. All right, next let's talk about problem 2. Problem 2 is very similar to the front page when we first identified these definitions. Okay, you are going to use this picture to name all of the angles that match these pairs. Now, on this picture, there are 4 corresponding angles, 2 alternate interior, 2 same side interior, 2 alternate exterior, and 2 same side exterior. I want to encourage you now to pause the video and to test yourself, see if you can write down all these pairs before I give the answers. So if you want to test yourself, pause it now. All right, hopefully you're trying to test yourself here. See, you should have written all these down. Here are the correct answers. Now corresponding is same side of the line, 1 inside, 1 outside. That would be angle 1 and 5, 7 and 3, 8 and 4, 6 and 2. Okay, again, same side, so like here on the top side, one outside, one inside, one inside, one outside. Same for down here. Alternate interior means opposite sides of the transversal and both inside. That would be angles 3 and 6 or angles 5 and 4. Same side interior means same side of the line, both inside. That would be angles 3 and 5 and angles 6 and 4. Alternate exterior angles would mean alternate sides of the line, all exterior. That would be angles 8 and 1 and angles 2 and 7. Last is your same side exterior, which is same side of the line, both exterior. That would be angles 8 and 2 and angles 7 and 1. Go ahead and check your answers. Make sure they match. The last question here is to identify the types of angle pairs based off of this image. Now again, when I printed these off for you guys, they did not print off what angles they were supposed to be, so go ahead and write these in first. A should be angles 1 and 8, then B should be 4 and 6, C should be 7 and 3, D should be 3 and 6, and E should be 2 and 8. You're going to go through and you're going to look at the picture and identify what type of angles do we have here. Are they corresponding, alternate interior, same side exterior? What are they? Okay. Again, I want to encourage you guys to pause the video here, see if you can come up with the answers, and then press play to check your answers. Press pause now. Okay. Hopefully you got the answers written down. Okay. 1 and 8 are here. Now they're both on the same side of T and they're both inside. So that would be same side interior. Okay, here's 4 and 6. Okay, if you look, 4 is on the top, 6 is on the bottom, so that's alternate, and they're both outside. So that's alternate exterior. Then we have 7 and 3. Here's 7, here's 3. They're on the same side, but one's in and one's out. So this would be corresponding. Then we have 3 and 6. 3 and 6 are both on the bottom, so they're same side, and they're both outside. So this is same side exterior. Lastly, we have angles 2 and 8. 2 is here, 8 is here. They're both in between the two lines, but they're on opposite sides of line T. So this would be alternate interior. All right. Please go back and rewind this video at any time if you need to check answers or look at what you've done. Again, today, the goal was to be able to identify relationships between figures in space and to identify angles formed by two lines and a transversal. Now that you're done with your notes, I want you to go ahead and get started on your bookwork. So your Section 3-1 bookwork is on page 143, numbers 1 through 10 all, 11 through 27 odd. I already have this uploaded onto Google Classroom for you. So either grab a textbook or grab a Chromebook and get started on this bookwork. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.